Like, so my favorite character is Batman.
Love him.
There's just something about, first, I like my personal preference. I prefer DC Comics over Marvel in a lot of ways, just because DC Comics kind of take you out of reality, where Marvel kind of like, this stuff can happen like in your world, right? It's in New York, whatever like that, Spider-Man swinging around or whatever, that it's like, it's in that world. Obviously, it can't actually happen, but you understand my point. But DC Comics, specifically Batman and Arkham and all of that stuff, it was so like, I don't know, I just love the dark. I love the tone of it. Yeah. That's why I even enjoyed when we had Twinkle Toes, or the Sparkly Vampire played in the new Batman.
Oh, Robert Pattinson.
Yes, Robert Pattinson, right? I didn't care for his depiction of Batman too much. The emo Batman is not really my vibe, but I will say the world of being in Gotham and the tone, and I've watched that movie so many times because the story is okay, but really what sticks out to me from an editor and kind of producer standpoint, I'm listening to the sound design work and the tones and all of that, the colors and everything like that for it. So as a colorist, how would you say, like, you've worked on so many different projects, how do you get people to dive into that world when you're picking those colors and you're going into that?
Well, when I was first learning about color, I went to this website. I forgot what it was called, but Laura Martin, the famous colorist from Wildstorm, and then she moved on to Marvel in the early 2000s. She was my favorite colorist forever. She did everything at Wildstorm. She did Planetary, John Cassidy, and Warren Ellis, which is probably my favorite comic book. But on her website, she had some basic coloring tips. But I remember, besides the Photoshop tips of what to do, there was the mental side, and she said there were 3 points to coloring. It was mood, depth, and focus.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So what is the mood of this thing? Is it scary? Is it cheerful? Is it confusing? Use color that way. And then depth. This is paper. This is two-dimensional. We got to get depth. We got to make depth here, make this thing three-dimensional. And then focus. That's obviously the storytelling, leading the person across the page. One thing amateurs do is first they use local color. Local color is like an apple's red, the sky is yellow, the sky is, it's like, no, that's not how color works. But then the other thing amateur colorists do is they detail everything. They put a detail, if they don't see a detail they don't like. And it's and what you do when you do that is you create wallpaper. It's just like an explosion of, like, there's no unity. There's no unity to the drawing. It's like Shakespeare said, brevity is the soul of wit. Okay. Right? So when you simplify things, you boil them down, the audience can go into their brain, can process the message better. Because all creating art is patterns. You know, people think it's a magical talent and this and that. I believe that God gives you an artistic inclination, which I guess we can call talent. But really, it's you're practicing and you're learning to recreate the patterns of nature. Human beings receive a dopamine hit when they recognize a pattern. That's why art feels good when it's executed correctly. You know what I mean? So it works the same way. Brevity is the soul of wit is about writing. There's a great example. William Bernhardt is a New York Times bestselling detective fiction author. All of his books on writing are amazing. And I remember I've listened to all of them a million times on audiobooks because I'm a writer too. And one thing he says is, when you're talking about getting rid of adjectives and simplifying writing, he says, don't say the blood slowly dripped. Say the blood oozed. You see the difference? Brevity being the soul of wit. Doug TenNapel, creator of Earthworm Jim, I colored Bigfoot Bill for him. And I was putting a little bit too much detail on this one page, and he said, let the big shape win. You get what I'm saying there? So when you simplify with masterful skills, if you know exactly how to simplify it, to boil it down and distill it, to abstract the concept, it's going to be the most pleasurable thing. I think unskilled artists, when they're younger, I know I did it myself, hide behind details. I gotcha. They don't know how to. It's actually a lot harder to draw Bugs Bunny than it is to draw some overly detailed 90s image thing. Because remember the 90s detail? That was hiding. That was hiding because, but how many lines are in Bugs Bunny? Like 13, 16? You have to get them right. The right shape, the right curve. There's no just hiding behind all this detail. So people do that when they write, they do it when they color, they do it when they draw. They're hiding behind superfluous detail. So that's how I think about coloring is, how can I do this in drawing with an economy of line? With writing, an economy of words. With coloring, an economy of shapes. less is more. The older I get and the better I get at this, the more natural it becomes to me, the less detail I put in, because the things I choose are as perfect as I can get.
You got to make them matter. You make everything decent matter.
Pick. Why am I doing this line? I have to justify it. Why does that line exist? It's not it's just detail for detail.